Okay. Welcome to the Scoop on Blogging podcast. I am your girl, Xaviera, and I am very excited today to be kicking off the new season of the Scoop on Blogging podcast. And not only am I kicking off the new season, I have a very special guest. I have Mr. Mehka King in the building. He is the CEO, he is the face, he is the man, he is the movement behind Cash Color Cannabis. So I am so excited to be talking to you today.
Hey, I am too. I'm a big fan of yours. I've been following your. As a matter of fact, it's so crazy. I've been following Ice Cream Combos for so long. I feel like I watched your daughter grow up.
You're not the only one.
So yeah, I've definitely been a fan of yours for a while. So I'm thankful for this moment.
I'm thankful to have you here as well. So, this conversation is just going to be a laid back conversation. If this is the first time you are watching or listening to the Scoop on Blogging, the whole purpose of this podcast is to share the journeys of other members of media, other people who are blogging, other people who have created amazing online businesses, and you, sir, check off all of the boxes. So, the first thing that I want to know from you is, where are you from?
From Boston, Massachusetts, Mattapan to be exact, 02126. What up?
Okay, now you done gave me the whole zip code. No, that's not the area code. That's the area code. Excuse me.
Yep.
Also from Boston. You know
Yes.
what? It's so funny because once I met you and I love you and your wife and all that great stuff, but I knew something was different. You didn't have Southern about you.
Nah.
And not saying Southern is a bad thing. It's just we're here in the South, but you didn't feel Southern. You felt up top. That
Let me
might
tell
have
you.
been the vibe.
Every time I go back home to Boston, they tell me I sound Southern now. I've been in the South for now, 20 years now. I went to school at Johnson
Wow.
C. Smith in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
So I've been in the South, yeah, for a grip now. And every time I go back home, somebody tells me, yo, you got a Southern accent. I'm like, I don't hear it, but okay.
They do that to me too. They always tell me I sound country when I go home, and I'm like, "How do I sound country?" I'm from. Because
Man.
for those of you who don't know, I'm from New Jersey. So
Oh,
you've been
wow,
here,
really?
yeah, yeah.
Have
I'm
you
from
stabbed
Jersey.
anybody before?
No, no, no. It got kind of crucial, but I ain't putting. I ain't. I'm. I did 8 hours in jail, but we'll talk about that at another
Look,
time.
Jersey's turned up, man. I think that's one of the few places I don't like going to.
Don't say. See, the thing about New Jersey, it just depends on where you at. See, I was in South Jersey where we got corn and cows. City,
Oh,
and our main attraction was Atlantic City.
so you
So
wasn't Trenton.
see, up top, when you start hitting Trenton and you start hitting Newark and you start hitting East Orange and all that, because I went to East Orange a couple years ago trying to see a dude, and I stopped somebody for directions, and apparently I didn't stop them the right way, and they pulled a gun on me. So yeah, I learned very quickly about North Jersey. I
Lock your
learned.
doors.
Hide your
Lock your
kids,
doors.
hide your wife.
Hide your kids, hide your wife. Lock your doors. Lock your doors, man.
Yes, yes. So you are originally from Boston. Tell me about how you ended up in the AT of L's.
Well, I've always had a relationship with Atlanta. Like, to just give you background, my family, my mother and my father are both from down south. Like, my mother's from Alabama, my father's from North Carolina. They actually met each other in Boston. They both moved to Boston. They actually met each other in Boston.
Okay.
And so I got my brother and my sister, and they both went off to college in the South. Like, my brother went to Alabama A&M, and my sister went to Morris Brown.
Hmm.
And when my sister was at Morris Brown, this was around the time Freak Nick was at his peak. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like she would come back home with T-shirts and all these CDs and stuff like that. Like, I've been known about Atlanta culture since I've been probably a freshman in high school. You know what I mean? Like, I've been
Wow.
indoctrinated into what
Hmm.
Atlanta was like that back then early. You know what I mean? So I used to go visit her occasionally, and especially after she graduated, I come down and I was in college myself. I drive down to Atlanta all the time. So
Okay.
I had a relationship with Atlanta for decades, man, before I actually moved down here. But I didn't move down here until 2012. That's when me and Sherelle moved down to Atlanta together.
Okay. Okay.
And again, being that I already had a relationship down here, I was already working down here. Basically, being in Charlotte, I would drive down occasionally for music events, for interviews. I'd be in Atlanta so much people thought I lived there anyway. At one point, I would get invited to stuff on Wednesdays. Like, y'all don't know I got a job. I live in Charlotte. Like, what I'm saying?
Okay.
But yeah,
Wow.
I've been back and forth for a little while. I've had a great relationship with Atlanta. Atlanta's probably, I want to say, is my second home. Like,
Hmm.
honestly, like, I mean, yeah, I don't have a license here, but yeah, y'all are honestly my second home.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty dope. I actually came down here in 96. I came down in
Oh,
96. So I've been down here for a minute too. I've been down here for a minute too. I
was
came
this
down in
was this
96.
music era, Xavier?
When I got down here, I think I got down here just in time to catch one Freaknik. When I came, I was actually looking to, chase my musical dreams, and it didn't pan out.
Yeah,
It didn't.
it did pan out because right now we're here with you right now, and you've learned so much about entertainment that you were able to build an amazing platform on your own.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I'm very proud of what I was able to do once I got here and once I did what I needed to do, so to
Yeah.
speak. But it was, you have a road that you plan for yourself, but whatever it ends up turning into, you just to make the best out of it. So
Yes. Yes.
that's why we are both here. So when you were in Boston, were you in media then, or did media come along, or you joining the ranks of being, one of the elites in media? Did that happen once you got to Atlanta? Like, what's your journey to becoming Cash Color Cannabis?
Honestly, I've always wanted to be a journalist. Like I didn't have the confidence to say it until I remember it was my sophomore year and when I was in college, I was playing basketball. I remember telling my coach, quitting ball. He said, "What you quitting ball for?" I said, "I'm gonna be a writer." And he looked me dead in my face.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep your jersey because that doesn't even sound like a real thing. But I've always wanted to be a writer since I was a kid. Yeah, like I literally would watch
Wow.
60 Minutes and things like that with my mother and father. And Ed
Yeah.
Bradley, early in life, was one of my like heroes. You know what I'm saying? Like in
Yes,
elementary school,
yes.
Ed Bradley was the coolest dude I've ever seen on TV. Like he a black dude with
Word.
an
He had
earring.
swag. He
Yeah,
had
like he
swag, all of it.
fly to death. And he up here talking about Iran Contra affairs and things like that. Like that was cool
Hmm.
as hell to me. So
Yes.
the first time I actually did anything media related was in middle school. Like me and a friend of
Wow.
mine named Matt,
Hmm.
we were baseball fans. We took our baseball cards and we created this magazine that we circulated around the classroom of us giving our takes on our favorite players. So that was
Okay.
probably my first real jump into media. Like I loved it for life. And in high school, I had a chance to intern at a couple of local newspapers, and I had a
Okay.
chance to get my first story. I was 16. I did it for the Dorchester Community News.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, writing has always been something I love to do. But like I say, I didn't really have the heart to go out and do it
Hmm.
until I was in college. And at that time, you're meeting people from different backgrounds. You know what I mean? Like coming up in the city, like, and I try to warn my nephew about this a little bit because he's
Okay.
my height. He's a little bit bigger. He was at the wedding. You see my nephew.
Yes, yes.
That occasionally black men and women in
Hmm.
particular, at times can get you can get an occupation chose for you based off how you look. You know what I mean? So if you're a
Yes.
certain height, they'll tell you early you gotta play basketball. If you're a certain
Hmm.
weight, you gotta play football.
Hmm.
They'll tell you that early to the point where you feel like that's your identity. And when I was a sophomore in college, I remember that stopped being my identity when I was in inroads and I'm starting meeting people from all different backgrounds. People live in projects who speak Arabic and things like that.
Right.
And I'm feeling like, yo, I could actually be a writer. I'm now reading more books at this point. It was a summer of awakening my freshman year of college to the point where I
Yes.
walked up to my coach and said, yeah, I'm gonna be a writer. You know what I'm saying? And that's about that.
I know
And
he
that's
was
it.
like, say what now?
When I say he held my jersey that whole year, I was like, dog, I'm serious. Like, I'm not, I haven't,
Wow.
matter of fact, to this moment, outside of maybe a couple of times when I was covering hoops for Slam, I
Hmm.
don't even step on basketball courts because I don't want to get the feeling of wanting to play. Like, I remember walking away like,
Wow.
I'm done. Like, I haven't even picked up a ball since then.
Really? Because I
Mhm.
thought that was something that's like just ingrained in your soul. Like you just
It
can't walk
is.
away.
It
You
is.
just
Like,
can't walk
I
away.
couldn't walk away, but I could cover it. You know what I mean? Like, my
I
brother,
got you.
he's a basketball coach. Like, he coaches,
Hmm.
matter of fact, shout out to my brother Keith Bonner, the Alabama Titans AAU 13 under champions. It's in
Yes.
him. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Okay.
in me. It's not in
Okay.
me to want to keep doing that. It was in me to be a
Wow.
writer.
So let's talk about, all right. So middle school, elementary school, you and the homie, y'all start your own little magazine,
Facts.
giving you little backgrounds. Then you go to college and you really realize, okay, writing, this my thing.
This is my
Sir, you
thing.
can hold my jersey, you can hold this ball. I'm about to bounce this pen
Yep.
instead of this ball. So how did that cultivate into Cash Color Cannabis where we are? Because one of the things is, it's so funny to me about Cash Color Cannabis is I don't particularly puff pass. I will nibble on some edibles,
Yeah.
but I'm not a puff pass. But I just find your outlet to be so informative and so eye opening to what's really going on in the world. And it's funny because, I saw one day you made a statement and you said, and I'm getting ahead of myself because you haven't even started telling us about Cash Color Cannabis, but this is me. You made a statement and said that you wanted to be the premier media outlet in cannabis.
Yes.
And I was looking at the statement and I had my face screwed up because I was like, sir, you already are.
No,
Like, and I
not
don't
yet.
think I listen, you may not be where you want to be, you know what I'm saying? But for us who have watched your grind, for us who have watched you build that platform, for us who have watched you spin the platform off into a clothing brand, which we'll get into as well, you know, I already feel like you're premier. And I don't know what your own personal goal is for yourself, but I just wanted to take a moment to tell you, as far as I am concerned, Cash Color Cannabis is the premier media outlet in the cannabis industry.
Thank you.
So I just want you to know that. So let's talk about how we actually got to Cash Color Cannabis.
Oh man, that's well, I can give you it's a short, long journey. You know what I mean? It would
Okay.
have to start with me. When I got out of college, this was in
Mm-hmm.
now 2 years after college, this is 2004. I started an outlet called lastwordonline.com, and it
Okay.
was my own version of what I felt like should be a hip hop news outlet. Now, at the moment, that was insane to people because websites weren't still really a thing to people. Like they
Mm-hmm.
would have websites, like the source would have a website, but everybody went to read the source. Like nobody went online to go do
Yeah.
anything. So
Right.
at that moment, I just really took a chance on myself again and borrowed a whole lot of money from my mama in order to build a website. Yeah, seriously. And next thing you know, I'm on the phones and I'm picking up CD covers and calling the back of CD covers because that's where managers live numbers. And I say, hey, I want to interview your artist. I got this website called Last Word Online. I'm
Wow.
doing it I'm literally doing this out of my apartment in Charlotte. I'd love to see if I can get in
Wow.
contact with you. So before you know it, I started doing these little interviews in 2004. And like I say, before you know it, you started stacking up actual contacts. Like at this moment,
Yes.
people were open to people just doing interviews. Before
Mm-hmm.
you know it, I'm doing interviews with people like Sheik Luch, and I got Jean Grey on the line.
Wow.
And I mean, literally, I'm 2 years out of college, and I'm sitting in my room, I'm sitting in my living room doing this.
Yes.
But eventually, Last Word Online would get a little bit popular,
Mm-hmm.
primarily amongst managers and publicists. Like I know for
Okay.
a fact we might have three views that day, but they might be from a publicist or manager, and you know what I'm saying. So we
Right.
picked up like
People of
that.
importance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the word of what we were doing got around, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I actually got asked to do some writing for other outlets. Rolling Out was the first outlet that I ever actually got a check for.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, yeah. And while writing for them, I
Wow.
was writing for a man named Al Weems. And while I was writing for Al Weems, Al looked at me one day because I was covering the 100 Black Men conference for him. I mean, 100 Black
Okay.
Men event for him.
Yep.
And he looked at me and said, "Brother, you look uncomfortable." He said, "In what world would you want to do where I would make you feel more comfortable as a writer?" I
Mm-hmm.
said, "I would be writing for the Source right now." And he said, "Well, I don't know nobody at the
Oh.
Source, but I know a couple people at Double XL." So he literally pitched my name to Double XL. Yeah, and I got
Wow.
an email from an editor up there asking me if I had time to cover a Jeezy concert. So yeah, I was blown. Yeah, so I had a chance to cover that, and through that network, I started writing for Slam magazine thanks to my basketball background. And at that moment,
Yeah.
North Carolina was bubbling with, like, at that time, I'll tell you this, at that time, Steph Curry was a freshman in high school. So the scene in North Carolina was wild. We had John Wall, we had Steph Curry's, we had CJ Leslie,
Wow.
TJ Warren's. You could go to list down. North Carolina was a bubbling area. So I actually
Mm-hmm.
had a chance to continually write about high school basketball and have that feeling that I did like, but I just don't want to play the game.
Yeah.
But as you're starting writing again, when you start writing, you start feeling a little bit of lack of control. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to pitch a story and get it waited for somebody to catch on to it. Like I
Yes.
can tell you now, I pitched the story of Steph Curry in high school 3 times and got turned down 3 times. But that was for a
Wow.
lot of other reasons. Like he really
Right.
wasn't
Right.
the most popular dude in the state at that moment. Like you have to
Okay.
wait till NBA till he got popular.
Mm-hmm.
But things like that would start wearing on me after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I stepped out and again and tried to launch my own outlet. And it was called DJsDoingWork.com. And that was me again
Mm.
taking my own twist on what I felt was the hip hop culture, which was sports, politics, everything. So I cover all kinds of
Right.
different topics. And then you run into a situation again. I'm doing that for 3 years and it's cool, and I'm getting a little bit of notoriety for it. But it
Yeah.
starts getting boring. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to
Yes.
monetize. It's really one of those things you're always coming out of your pocket to do, and it's more about a
Mm-hmm.
love. It wasn't necessarily something that was like funding your life.
Right.
So I had to get a job. You know what I mean? Like I had to go back to
Yeah.
the actual workforce. And
Yeah.
I ended up working in the nonprofit area where I was working for this company that was doing Get Out the Vote at the time. Now this is
Okay.
now 2014.
Okay.
I'm doing Get Out the Vote in Atlanta. My office held registered 8,000 people to vote at the time. It was really dope to see. And our office
Wow.
did so well that they actually flew us down to Denver to help out their Denver office. Now,
Wow.
as we going into this, now this is now 2015. They asked us to come down there, and weed is now legal in Denver. Now, that weed is now legal in Denver, and it's Colorado. And it's a crazy scene to kind of see if you're from a place like, again, I'm born and raised in Boston.
Yes.
I'm now living in Atlanta. None of these places have ever.
Hmm. Uh-oh. I lost audio. Hold on one second. I think you muted yourself.
That was me.
You muted yourself, and I was like, I'm listening. Then I was like, wait, I don't hear anything.
Well, I'll cut a long story short for you because I think I got this
Yes.
when I was in Denver. So I was in Denver,
Okay.
but I noticed the weed scene out there. I wasn't a writer at the time. I was still just kind of watching some of my friends. I was on
Hmm.
watching Nadine's and Terrell's and all them do their thing. But
Yeah.
I was knee deep in just trying to be a servant to the community, I felt.
Right.
But while I was in Denver, I'm picking up
Wow.
magazines and I'm looking around the scene. I'm trying to figure out what this legal weed scene was because of what I
Mm.
was smoking weed, especially people who look like us. Like you literally
Right.
sitting outside the state capitol smoking a joint. But what I
Hmm.
didn't see when I walked into any of these shops was a black face. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Something doesn't register here. Like, how are the black people out here, but I don't never see none of them working in here? Like that, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Right.
I started picking up magazines and stuff like that. I wanted to read about the scene when I came back to Atlanta. So just to kind of know, like I didn't know what I was going to do with it
Right.
until a friend of mine named Royal, who I just always smoked weed with. I didn't know he had any aspirations doing anything business wise.
Hmm.
Told me one day I'm gonna be in the cannabis industry, and I said, "What the hell is that?"
Hmm.
He said, "Bro, it's gonna." He said, "Watch what's gonna happen, man. All these states are gonna start changing laws, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be a chef." He said, "Look, I already
Okay.
started going to these conferences. You gotta see them one day." And I said, "Oh, what's the conferences like?" He said, "They cool." He said, "They'll never be no black people." And I went back to my time.
Mm.
So you don't see no black people when you walk in these rooms? He said, "Bro, I'm."
Wow.
So I was like, "That's weird." And the more it just pondered in my mind how weird it was, I wasn't seeing black people. How I'm opening these magazines, I don't see black people. I'm googling, I see
Hmm.
the same 3 or 4 black people, but I'm like, there has to be more. You know what I'm saying? I'm just that
Right. Right.
there has to be more. So my journalistic instincts kicked in, and I
Hmm.
said, "This is something I could do, and it would be something that would be fun for me. I like covering
Hmm.
things." And that
Right.
would be trying to start a little mini documentary, which was called "The Color Green: Cash Color Cannabis," where we
Hmm.
covered the black experience in the cannabis space, like what was it like at that moment, and what we can do to get more black people involved in cannabis. So
Okay.
I had a chance to, matter of fact, me and my boy Danny Digital, we had a chance to go around
Danny
the country.
D.
Yeah, I took
Danny
Danny to New
D.
York. We went to LA to go do this. We did a lot of interviews in Atlanta. People came to Atlanta and were visiting Atlanta, would stop through and kind of chop it up with us. And we had a great time. We did that for about a year and a half, all the way up until
Wow.
late 2016. We did that film.
Yes.
And then I ran out of money and ran out of, like when you're doing a documentary, it's one of the things where you really got to figure out how also to monetize that as well. And it's just you coming out your
Yes.
pocket, you start making kind of real decisions like, how am I doing? Like, is this really going to be ever be an impact? Yada, yada, yada.
Plus, it's such a tedious process.
Yes,
Usually a
yes,
film is like, we know we're going to be doing this for 3 months, blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. But a good documentary is over a span of time, and
And
it's
that's how
just
I
so
felt. Like
much.
I've seen so many good documentaries, and I'm like, already this story is a story that's not going to be finished by the end of 2016. It's a story that's evolving. You know what I mean? Like by the time
Right.
you're done, there's going to be something brand new anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And coincidentally, at this moment, I had did an interview at Live Hip Hop Daily for a good friend of mine. My man, last name Good, had a podcast at the time, and at
Okay.
this time, I didn't even know what the word podcast meant. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
what is even a podcast at this time? But I sat
Listen,
down with Good and did it.
podcast used to be known as internet radio.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, isn't this like an internet radio show? But now it's a podcast. All right,
Yeah.
whatever.
No,
So
internet radio.
I sat down with him and I chopped up about the documentary and everything. And after we were done, I kind of kicked it around the studio for about a second. And I asked the owner, his name's Herb. I said, Herb, y'all got any space to like do another show? Like, I was thinking maybe doing the podcast of like what I do, Color Green, Cash Color Cannabis. And
Mm-hmm.
Herb said the only day they got available was Tuesday at 9 p.m. He said, if you can make that work, you got it.
Wow.
So yeah, Tuesday we did our first episode December 2016. Matter of fact, it was Chris
Mm-hmm.
J. And since then we've done 200 episodes of the podcast alone. But within the
Wow.
podcast, we were also keeping everything up going with the website. Like we were now having the ability to reach out to not just the people who are interviewing before
Mm-hmm.
with the film, but now you're meeting people across the country who never even
Yep.
you know existed through now social media. So now
Mm-hmm.
we're able to populate the website with Q&As and profiles of all these
Yes.
amazing Black people I'm meeting in the cannabis space who might not be high times names, but like I
Right.
tell people, they're gonna be like, you know, saying the
Right.
people I'm talking to right now, they're gonna be. Trust me. So now you're meeting all these amazing people. I got 200 episodes of the show. We got the websites going off, and now I feel like I step back. It wasn't even like maybe a couple months ago, and I really realized, man, you got a whole media outlet. Like it's not just something that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing as a hobby no more. It's not something that's you coming out your pocket. It's actually funding you at this point. You have a whole thing you just created. So, and it
Yes.
started, and it's so crazy how you the same concept I had with Last Word Online, same concept I had with DJs doing work, I brought it to Cash Color Cannabis, which is the Black experience is not so minor that you can just put it in a box. And the Black
Right.
cannabis experience is the same way. Like everything from sports to politics to
Mm-hmm.
past generational issues, all those things are part of the Black experience when you talk about cannabis. So why
Mm-hmm.
not pour all that into this narrative that I'm creating? Why not pour that into the
Wow.
podcast? And pour that into the blog. Everything doesn't have to be necessarily weed centered. We could bring people on who have nothing to do with weed, but you actually have a good story to tell. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, we
Yes.
need to, I thought that was a good thing that we were doing even then, that we were expanding the conversation of what it is to be Black in cannabis.
Yeah. And another thing that you also do that I think is really interesting because, like I said, I don't puff puff pass, but I will nibble on the edible. Um, but one of the things that I did love about it was that you made it, even for someone like myself who does not partake, in weed or cannabis, you still made it so interesting to me, from the angles that you would go into things, even from the business side of it, people who are using it for medicinal purposes. Like you literally cover the gamut of everything. There is not one stone you have not left unturned in the cannabis industry. And that's why I wholeheartedly believe that you are the premier media outlet, because I don't see any other outlets doing that. And maybe I'm just not knowledgeable, but for me, having a firsthand view of what you're doing, that's why I feel like you cover the gamut. I feel like you have it on lock.
Well, thank you very much. I do feel like there's a couple of topics we haven't touched on, but I will touch on our new experience, Cash Color Cannabis Presents. I haven't touched on religion. We haven't really spoke about how Christians
Mm.
are taken to this new thing that's going on in their own community. Like and this conversation sparked off by speaking to a cannabis brand owner that I know in New York, who is
Yeah.
a devout Christian, who tells me often. He said, "You'll have these kind of conversations all the time in my church with my congregation." Because I feel like it's needed. You know what I mean? Like for
Hmm.
everybody from the pastor down to just members, I feel like we need to just know at least what's going on in the community. And I feel like
Right.
that's a conversation we need to also dive into, that the importance of the Black church is important to our community.
Yeah.
But also right now it's important for them to recognize that there's a change happening and you might want to be on the right side of that versus the, saying sticking with the stigmas that we were kind of born up with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now you did mention Cash Color Cannabis Presents. So I
Yeah.
don't want you just to skate over that. I want to dig into that a little bit more,
Yeah.
because you are truly expanding your brand. Not only are you a media outlet, you are a media entity. Like you have apparel, you have the podcast, you have
Yeah.
the actual online media outlet, and now we're talking about Cash Color Cannabis Presents. So I want you to talk a little bit more about that and give us some information on that.
Well, Cash Color Campus Presents is totally inspired by Vice and Cheddar TV actually. Like
Hmm.
I finally I was a big fan of Vice when it was early. Like I would be
Oh,
on their
oh
website all
yeah.
the time,
Oh
and I
yes.
loved how they used to have the video on their websites. They used to have their
Hmm.
own YouTube channel. Eventually, they took some of that stuff and put it on actual TV, like you see it on
Right.
HBO.
Right.
So that was my inspiration. I was like, at this point, we have a lot of video content so that was my creative director Nicole Scarlett. We have a lot
Hmm.
of video content that we do. I feel like it's time for us to do something else with this content. You know, the podcast is dope, the
Right.
website's dope, but let's take it to a different level. So, Cash Color Campus Presents is a web series that we're launching. It will be actually launched officially in February. I can't speak about the streaming platform we're
Okay.
working on just yet. Everything's
Okay.
done, but I do want to make sure the rollout's proper. But
Yes.
yeah, it's going to be a web series we're working on. The first 6 episodes are 15 minutes. And it's just kind of us
Mm.
taking the website and bringing the website to life. So, case in point, one of the stories on the website, my good friend Elena Dorsey, who's one of our contributors, she's been covering. She's 2 installments in on a story about black people tripping and the psychedelic movement that's going on right now. We're actually going to
Okay.
speak to one of the people who are interviewed for her piece. We're going to
Okay.
actually speak to them face to face. It's going to be a video face to face conversation, and we're going to speak to them about how they got into psychedelics and why more Black people are turning into that, especially when it
Hmm.
comes to issues when it comes to depression, anxiety,
Right.
things like that.
Right.
So those are some of the topics we're going to touch on. We're going to have definitely conversations about sports, the NBA lifting their marijuana, their cannabis, excuse me, lifting their
Yes.
regulations
So
against
let me
cannabis
ask you, let me
and stuff
ask you,
like
let
that.
me ask you,
Mhm.
as someone who is not knowledgeable, what is the difference between cannabis and marijuana?
Oh well, marijuana is a made up name. You know, like everything is a
Okay.
name that's gifted
Okay.
to people.
Okay.
Marijuana was literally created. You know what I mean? It was one of the things that Harry Anslinger is the reason why we're even here, where we have a prohibition on cannabis. And
Mm.
this was decades ago. But part of the propaganda that Harry Anslinger and people around him created were the narrative that cannabis was such a dangerous plant, and it was a dangerous plant that would not only make white women want to be with Black men, but it would.
I,
And then there was a crime side where they involved Mexicans, which is how you took the term marijuana. You know that sounds real.
it
You know
sounds
what I'm
very
saying?
Latina.
Yeah, yeah,
Tijuana,
yeah.
marijuana. I see what they did right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You assigned stereotypes and you assigned the name that was also stereotypical. So when you said it, it sounded almost dirty. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The actual name cannabis is what the plant is. Cannabis is what it is. So I like to
Right.
call it cannabis. I've often been, matter of fact, early when we were doing the film, the term marijuana even then was coming out of style. Like nobody necessarily says marijuana right now. I mean, you
I
will,
remember.
you know what I'm
I
saying? But
remember when my mom used to say reefer.
reefers, yeah, man, like the reefers, man. No, that's how marijuana is literally a made up thing. Like that,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
made up in order to make it sound like some foul stuff.
Okay. Thank you so much for clearing that up for me because I've been walking in the shadows for so long.
It's
So I'm
all
so
good.
glad. I'm so
It's
glad
all
you cleared it
good.
up. I'm so
It's
glad
all
you cleared it
good.
up.
It's only 2021 right now.
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
mean, you
We,
know,
we 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 still in the infancy of cannabis being legal. Like for the longest, like I feel like my nephew's in a blessed space. Like he grew up in an era where all he knew was for the earliest was a Black president and legal weed. You know what I'm
yes.
saying? Like you grew up in a great
Yes.
time. I grew up in a time when you get arrested over a dime bag.
A dime, a nickel too.
Hmm.
So let me ask you this. As far as being a member of the media, as far as being a creator, a writer, a journalist, you know, talk to me about that. Like, just the launching of cashcolorcannabis.com, the launching of the podcast. Let's start with this site. What were your biggest challenges, for someone who is looking at you right now and they're like, man, I want to start my own outlet. I just don't want it to be the typical entertainment celebrity news, but shout out to
I
all of us in
understand.
that area. For someone who wants to hone in on a particular niche that may not have that space. One of the things that you said that really stood out to me was that you said, it's not enough of us. So here I come. Like, I'm going to create this space because
Yeah.
I'm looking around and it's not enough of, that chocolatey melanin in the building. And so for someone else who may be inspired to create a space that is not necessarily there, or that a path is not already open for them, like, what would you say to them, or what did you do, yourself? I know this is a compounded question,
No, I got it.
but, what did you do to get to where you are now and to start launching and building your brand?
Well, I think first, especially with them discussing the website, first off, know what your niche is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, a lot of, again, with DJs doing work and last word online, I became one of many hip hop news outlets. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't nothing super unique about what I did. What I wanted to do with Cash Color Cannabis was be a tad bit more unique. And I remember after the first year of cashcolorcannabis.com, I said no more press releases. Meaning, like we get press releases and occasionally stuff would just highlight a brand that just did this or a
Yeah.
state just did that. What I didn't want to do was fall into the line of being a outlet that just regurgitated other people's news. So
Yes.
even right now, our content goes up a little bit slower because of that, but it's more our content. So I try to say
Authentic.
this: yeah, if you're going to do something, make sure your voice is authentic. That you're doing authentic stories, or you're hiring out people to do authentic stories. It's still cool to mix in the hot news blurb of the day and all that.
Right.
But even if you do that, give us your take on that. Don't just copy and paste and just give somebody what's already printed out there, because then again, you're not being unique and you're not giving your voice. I think that's one thing that does draw people to Cash Color Cannabis is we're very unique in our voice. Like if I don't know
Yes.
something, I openly say it on a podcast. Like, you know what I mean? I've
Right.
openly said plenty of things that I don't know about cannabis. I'd rather know by speaking to somebody. So I brought a guest. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that do that. Be an honest person as far as your voice, and you'll start bringing in the audience that you want to have. When you continue on the line of just regurgitating information and just being in the same copy and paste mode that everybody else is in, then you're gonna get the same audience, and that you might not want that audience. So
Right.
I would say focus on that, figuring out what your voice is or what the voice of the outlet is going to be, and try as hard as you can to create that voice. You know what I mean? And not just have that voice be something that, all right, Two Dope Boys posted this today, Hot New Hip Hop posted this today, so let me follow up on that. Or
Right.
I just saw this come down Cision today. Gotta post this. You don't have to always do that. Make sure that you keep it
Right.
in line with what you feel like is honest to you. And what's honest to us is making sure that we create what again is the Black experience in cannabis, and we make sure that we populate our stories with unique stories and things that are unique to our conversation, and that's going to take a little bit more work than just copying and pasting.
What was the biggest challenge for you and, along your journey of building your brand?
The biggest challenge I had was believing in it myself. Initially you'd have the same worries that other people have, and especially when it came to cannabis, like we have a different the Black community has a different view of cannabis than the white community because of just how we came up through it. Same thing with
Right.
Latinos, the Latinx. The same thing. Like when you come up in a situation where you're constantly persecuted for something, then you're always kind of apprehensive about tying your name to it. And early with Cash Color Cannabis, I had to go through that conversation a lot with folks. I'm not comfortable being on air. I'm not comfortable speaking
Right.
about this. Or worse, how are you comfortable speaking about this? How are you comfortable doing this? I had to remind somebody that High Time's been
Right.
around longer than I've been on Earth. You know what I'm saying? Or
Wow.
about. You know what I mean? I just turned 40 not too long ago. They've been on this earth for a little while. Cannabis has only been legal a handful of years. Like nobody
Yeah.
ever asked them, are you okay covering this topic? Like it's not a thought in the white community's mind. You know what I'm saying? That no
Yes.
matter how illegal this is, you have the First Amendment freedom of speech to have this conversation. I live by that. So I
Right.
had to remind myself again and just have that confidence to, this is what I know I can do. This is what I know I can create. And I know that I'm not doing something that's going to put anybody in any real legal issues unless you put yourself there. You know what I mean? Like I don't let people come on. We're not Vlad TV. I don't want to know about your beef. I don't want to know about, you don't need to take me to the trap. You can just literally give me a gist of what you do, how you got
Right.
here, and I can navigate the conversation from there. Yeah, that was the hardest challenge though. Just making sure that I reminded myself that you have the power to create this. That there was
Right.
the reason why this spark came into your body in the first place, and that the challenges in front of you of convincing others is a task that was put on you when you had a chance to create this. Like I'm sure when Black Enterprise started, step into a Black company about putting in this magazine when Forbes still existed and Fortune still existed.
Right.
Stupid. Same thing with the Source. When the Source was talking about we're gonna talk about rap, well, I'm pretty sure most rappers will say, even if they didn't listen to it at the time or really read it, would say I'd rather be a Rolling Stone. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like that was
Right.
probably still a thing. You have to convince your audience as well that this is what they need to do. And again, it goes back to being authentic. The Source was authentic at the time. Black
Yeah.
Enterprise was an authentic voice at the time. You know what I'm saying? Black Enterprise was
Yes.
an authentic voice for Black business owners.
Right.
Be that. Don't just be a copy and paste version of what you just see.
Absolutely. I just wanted to speak to that too because your interview with Rick Ross.
Freeway.
The real
Yes,
Rick
sir.
Ross. And again, that is a prime example of, you speaking to someone who does have like a very, very colorful, interesting past, but sticking to the subject at hand. So that was an amazing interview. I just want to personally congratulate
Thank
you
you.
on
Thank
that
you.
one. And it was so perfect because I had seen the documentary, so you couldn't tell me I ain't know nothing about him by the time I came, but yeah, so just congratulations with that. One thing that I also wanted to talk to you about was the expansion from, we have people who get into media, we have people who start launching their own online businesses, and the expansion. So let's talk about Atlantabis.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your clothing line.
Talk about it, man.
Yes. So tell me about it. I see you rocking the merch right now, and
True.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So talk to me about how you decided to expand the brand into apparel, and where people can pick up some of this apparel and support you. And let me know.
Yeah, well, Atlantis came about. Well, one, I was always looking for a different way. Well, I was always looking for a revenue stream that could help sustain what we do with the podcast. As you know,
Right.
podcasting is like almost like being an independent rapper. You know what I
It
mean? Like
sure is.
you're not getting money. You know what I'm saying? So
It
you got
sure
to
is.
figure out how to make
Yes.
money off this music or off the thing that
Right.
you're giving away to people at this moment. And I always figured that clothing would be something cool to do. What I never saw myself as doing is being the face of or having to actually sell said brand of clothes.
Yeah, because you be
Um,
modeling, King. Look,
yeah, I do. I
I
got to,
said, look at,
man.
I said, look at Mecca. This King out here modeling.
Look,
Like,
I have a sales background too, and one of the things you always remember in sales is you got to sell the product you selling. You got to make sure you are selling it, meaning like you got to
yes,
give that energy back to a person, and part of that is you using it, knowing about it, and things like that. So,
absolutely.
so yeah, Atlantis came off because at the time I was wearing a lot of different brands, and I know a lot of different brands was getting a lot of different shine. You know what I mean? I'd always have my support your local hustler shirt on. Somebody would ask me, "How can I buy that immediately?" You know what I mean? I'd have
Yeah,
my Pimp
yeah.
C shirt on. Somebody.
Your sound went out again, but your microphone, okay. All right, try one. I still can't hear you.
Lost connection. Can you hear
There
me?
you go. There you
Okay.
go.
It
All
was saying
right,
the
we're
browser
good.
lost connection. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Um, but yeah, Cannabis just came about because I was wearing a bunch of stuff, and I felt like the clothing brands that I were wearing, which I did support, they were definitely getting a lot of light. And I thought that that might be a good way for me to start making some money off what I'm doing now with the podcast.
Yeah.
So I would jokingly call the people who came to the show, this is the Atlantabis community, like Atlanta and cannabis. Like this is the Atlantabis
Yes.
community coming through and kicking it with us. So I called it Atlantabis Clothing. And the first thing that we put out was our Atlantabis signature shirts, which were these.
Yes.
They're in red and blue. And after that, I came up with our second concept, which is our most popular concept currently, which is our drug lord, which goes back to our
Yes.
conversation with Freeway Rick and a conversation I had with somebody else about the Iran Contra affair that made me say, I think people don't know a whole lot about what happens. Let me put it on the shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Boy, when I saw that picture of Ronald Reagan, I was like, he did it. He did.
Yeah. Yeah, let me tell you,
Yes.
drug war became so popular that I'll wear it now. And at first, when I first put it on, I was kind of apprehensive about wearing it, and I thought that that might be an issue. Like if you are personally apprehensive about wearing this,
Oh,
why would somebody
yeah.
else do it? So I started wearing it around, and the first time a white person walked up to me, and it was a white woman, and she not to be derogatory to anybody else, but she gave me real Karen vibes. This is
Okay, I
about
was
a
getting
year
ready
and
to
a
say,
half
was it
ago.
Karen
She walked up to
or
me
was
through
it Karen?
space. It was scrunched up, and I was like, "Oh, this is about to go left. Let me get ready." She
Yeah.
points her finger at my shirt and goes, "You're damn right he was a drug lord," and then walked away.
What?
Then
Come
walked
on,
away.
Karen.
That's
Nah,
what I said.
that was Kendra. That was Kendra.
That was Kendra. Yeah, that's what
That
I
was
said. But
Kendra.
yeah. So we started off with our Land signature shirts, and then we spawned out into our drug line collection, which is us
Okay.
reimagining what a drug lord is. So we
Yeah.
took the story of the Iran Contra affair, which was, in a nutshell, a big gun and drug swap out that was treasonous. That
It
was
sure
actually
was.
treasonous that Ronald Reagan and his affiliates pulled off. Thanks to him and thanks to Oliver North shredding information, we have not. We at one point did we ever impeach Ronald Reagan, or was he ever hit with a treason charge? But
Not
what they did
never.
was basically treason. It was a gun and drug charge. It was a gun and drug swap in which our country got drugs. Now, where those drugs went, I interviewed a guy who made $3 million in a day. You know what I'm saying? Named Freeway Ricky, who was
Yes.
called the king of crack at this exact same time. At this
Yep.
exact same time, they
Same
labeled him the
time.
king of crack. Now, you had to get said work from somewhere. And as you know, you watch this documentary,
I sure
you
did.
understand fully how he got his work. That was
Oh
all
yeah.
tied into a government situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, yo, if we look at Freeway as a drug lord, we look at Meech as a drug lord, why don't we ever look at Ronald Reagan as a drug
Yes.
lord? Like, you was literally the
Mm-hmm.
kingpins, you know what I'm
The
saying? Like
puppeteer.
the puppeteer, like you had a country on lock, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
that's definitely a drug lord. And your boy George Bush, who was helping you at the time, he's a
Mm.
drug lord. And Oliver North, if we ever want to throw a RICO on this case, you're definitely complicit. So you're part of this drug case too. So them
Wow.
three are our first drug lord models. And Ronald
Yes.
Reagan to this moment is our most popular. I get black, white, young, old trying to buy that shirt like all day, like just to wear it. Matter of fact, it was so dope to see people go vote wearing them shirts.
Oh
Last
my
couple of months,
gosh.
people walking in the voting booths and with the whole stickers on their chest and the whole drug lord on it.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. So let's talk about where you would like to take the brand because apparently you still have a lot of great and huge goals to go.
Yes.
Let's talk about what the future of Cash Color Cannabis looks like and some of the personal goals that you want to attain for the business this year.
Well, shoot, the goal for Cash Color Cannabis overall is and I hate to keep, well, yeah, I can give them props. Vice is to almost mimic
Hmm.
Vice. Like, I love how Vice's trajectory, like it started
Yeah,
as the
yeah.
website and went to YouTube. And next thing you know, they're on HBO to the point where now they have their own channel, Vice Land. I'd
Yeah.
love to have a channel called Cash Color Cannabis. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Where
that would be
where
dope.
not just do we put out our own content, but I would love to produce other content. Like I was watching a skit comedy yesterday, and I was like, I'd love to be able to put on something like that on
Hmm.
Cash Color Cannabis Network, or a
Right.
stand up comedy show on Cash Color Cannabis Network. I would love to be able to give another platform to other creators to be able to come up and create their own
Hmm.
shows, like the opportunity I've been given. I love to be able
Right.
to do that with Cash Color Cannabis. So that's the overall goal. Like from here on to infinity, I want Cash Color Cannabis to be on that level of, I've been
Hmm.
called BT of cannabis, and I think that's dope too. But I want to
Yes.
be on the level of Vice, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying, where we have this hardcore news outlet that people believe in, but we also have this channel that'll give you so many other, what I'm saying, dope
Yes.
things that you might not even cared about before. Like you might not have cared about sex trafficking until you watch this show. You might not have
Hmm.
cared about psychedelics until you watch this show, but in the core of it is still what it is, Vice News. You know what I'm saying? Like you're still giving you this
Yes.
hardcore, different version of how news should look like. I want Cash
Hmm.
Color Cannabis to be that. I want the core of it to be the Black experience in cannabis, and we doing it through news profiles and things like that. But I also
Okay.
want to spawn out into us covering sports, us covering. We have a show called that we're going to be adding onto our Cash Color Cannabis presents, which is cooking, which is Cash Color Cannabis, Cash Color Cuisine, where
Ooh.
we sit down with some dope edible with some dope chefs I know. One of
Hmm.
them, my man Chef Et, we're gonna sit down with next week. He's gonna chef us up a infused meal, and we're gonna discuss how he's doing this and how he
Mm.
got into cooking and all that. So we're gonna be that's some of the things I want to start bringing to the Cash Color
Yeah.
Cannabis space.
And that's so dope. Also, as far as the Cash Color Cannabis, I wanted to ask you now that even in this past election, there's more legalizations and more dispensaries coming and more, you see celebrities and people
Jay
opening their own,
Z,
getting into the cannabis business,
yeah.
opening their own dispensaries. So, as the laws are beginning to change, do you feel that will also impact your business and create a even give you even more room to grow? No pun intended.
Oh
You see
yeah,
what I did right there?
no,
Did you
I
see what
did.
I did right there?
I
Get,
did. But I think that
man, you
the,
go.
the beauty of Cash Color Cannabis is we can grow it regardless. Like
Hmm.
legalization isn't the thing that'll make us pop. Like we're already, I feel like already, like I consider again, if we're looking at from a comparison of indie rap, I feel like I'm Wiz
Yes.
Khalifa, Currency, and Big Crit. You know what I'm saying? Like right in that
Yeah.
era where you would go down to South by Southwest and you would see them on 20 independent stages, and then
Right.
the very next year you got every major label hunting them down. I
Okay.
feel like we there. Like I don't think
Yes.
legalization would do anything but help. You know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
I don't think it's something that would take us to another level that I wouldn't be able to get to anyway. Like our
Okay.
conversation is so broad that it's not just based on will this state legalize or will this country ever legalize. Our conversation is way more is a little bit more broader than that. I would
Okay.
love to see legalization because then we can get into what social equity really is, and then we can get into
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We could really start really seeing
Yeah.
with some of these things, with
Hmm.
some of these options that we're being presented, what it really actually is turning out to be. So I love to have these conversations. Bring on legalization so we can have maybe just a dedicated channel to what social equity is, or is social equity even working?
Right.
We can have a conversation about, is legalization actually even a good thing for the Black community? Maybe the legacy market was what we actually needed, you know, and we've actually needed to
Okay.
support that. I would love to start having those. I mean, we got those conversations now, but
Yeah.
legalization would definitely allow me to really hone in and say, yeah, let's hone in on this now. Yeah, let's do
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, once the more legalization was happening, not necessarily focusing on the legalization, but now that legalization kind of opens up the space, I guess I was kind of looking at it like that. But like you said, you're already out here killing it, so I mean, either way it's not going to necessarily make a difference with you. But I was just wondering maybe if it impacted the business any way, shape, or form. So thanks for clearing that up for me.
It might allow me to have my own strain one day, if anything. But other than that, yeah, other than that, it'll just be something cool to see. You know, I'd love to see them actually focus more on decriminalization and decriminalizing the
Yes.
plant than legalization. But again, that's my minor opinion about this big
Yeah.
conversation. I'd love to
It
have
is.
more people pour in with me.
Yeah, that's a very big
Hmm.
conversation. So going forward, we want to see Cash Color Cannabis turn into this conglomerate of a network that creates a space. I think all of the ideas that you have so far for Cash Color Cannabis is absolutely amazing. Because I will be tuning in to see about this.
Cash Color Canvas presents.
Yes, yes, and this
It's gonna be lit.
cuisine. I will be checking in on the
Oh yeah,
cuisine.
yeah,
Cause
yeah.
see,
Matter
I
of fact,
eats. I
please,
eats.
please follow us on Instagram now at Cash Color Campus Presents. I
Yes.
will put some behind the scenes pictures up next week
Okay.
because my man Chef is actually one of the more entertaining people you ever want to meet as well. But he
Okay.
can cook. He can cook. Him and Scott Lee are probably the two people I will sit down. I got honestly say like, and matter of fact, and shout out my girl Lala Carpe Diem. I would
Okay.
say bar for bar, spoon for spoon, plate for plate. They can throw down.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, so you already started telling people how to connect with you, but I want you to go ahead and go through all of your social media handles, the website, everything for people to connect with you and to continue to follow you and support you as we watch you continue to grow.
Got it, man. Well, first off, you can start off at cashcolorcannabis.com. If you go to the website, we have all our Instagram, we have our Instagram, we have our Facebook, we have our Twitter links. But if you aren't at the website, you can follow us on Instagram at Cash Color Cannabis.
Hmm.
On Twitter, we are at Cash Color Canna. And on
Okay.
Facebook, we're Cash Color Cannabis, or we actually have two pages. It's Cash Color Cannabis and it's Cash Color Cannabis Podcast. So either
Okay.
one you can definitely support us on. We record our show Tuesday nights 9 p.m. at Live Hip Hop Daily, so you can always watch the show that way.
Okay.
Please stream the podcast. We're on
Mhm.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on Pandora, Audio Mac, wherever you stream podcasts outside of title.
Cool.
we're outside of title. We're on, so definitely check
Yeah.
us out there. And
Okay.
if you want to shop at Cannabis Clothing, go to atlantabisclothing.com and place your order. Actually, this week we're waiving shipping fees, so this will be the best
Oh
time for you to
snap.
try to
Free shipping.
to go ahead and get something in.
We love us some free shipping.
Hey man, love free shipping, boy. Let me tell you something. I just I wanted to do that last month, but it just kind of hit me to give it a chance this month. But yeah, people love
Yeah.
free shipping. I do. Why don't you just give people free shipping?
It's so funny because I saw a thing one time that said it could be $1 million, but they'd be like, "Is it free shipping though?"
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, the
Exactly.
product could be $1 million, but what about that shipping? Is that shipping free? So
Hmm.
yes, so I am just so excited, and I really appreciate having the opportunity to really, really sit down with you and talk to you about your brand, and just to have the opportunity for you to share your story and the background of your brand and everything that you're doing, which is so freaking amazing with my audience and with the Scoop on Blogging audience, because there's so much that can be learned by just watching your grind. So much to be learned.
I'm very much humbled. Like I say, this is something to me that I thought could happen, but even now, like I get requests, I get interview requests and things like that, and I find myself getting frustrated because again, so many. I get bombarded from all areas, from DMs to text messages to emails. But I also say to myself, this is the point you wanted to be at. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So cherish the moment. Like there was a time when you couldn't do anything. There was a time when the most you made on a shirt was $32 a month. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Cherish these
Right.
moments, boy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for speaking with us today, Mr. Mecca King. A
Hey.
king is a king is a king.
Hey,
And
before we go, you have the
sure.
amazing radio voice.
Who, me?
Yeah, you man. You start
I'll be
doing, do you do
trying.
voiceovers?
No. I
Girl, you
should,
should do
huh?
voiceovers. You should. You should. I'm thinking like, can we get her to cut a Cash Color Cannabis drop? Maybe
I
like
sure could. I
her
sure could.
amazing radio voice.
I sure could. I would be more than honored to do that for you. So just let me know. And I will do that.
Xavier, I appreciate you so much. Oh, it's also so dope watching Desi grow up, and now you be a grandma. Now you got Sugar with you.
Listen, I'm Shuggy. I got Shuggy vibes. I'm out here in these grandma streets. I'm a mama now. So yes, life is so different. I
What are you
literally,
now? Are you a grandma, a nana, or what do they
I'm a
call you?
Shuggy.
You're a Sugar.
Yeah, yeah. And depending on the day, the Shug is for Shug Night or the Shug is for Sugar Mama. It just depends
Okay.
on the day. You
All
know what I
right, Peter
mean? So
Alec. I like that, man. She says,
I'm Shuggy. I am Shuggy. And it's funny
Sugar,
because,
Sugar Daddy.
my birthday just passed a few weeks ago.
Oh,
And
happy
thank
belated.
you. Thank you. And Shuggy was on my birthday cake. I'm official.
Oh, you're official now. You got a cool family, man.
Yeah, yeah, I love my family. So, and you and Sherelle are also part of my family, and I just love you guys so much. And I appreciate the way that you support me. And when I got ready to bring back the Scoop on Blogging podcast, I was like, there is no better way to kick this podcast off with Mr. One Mecca King. So thank you
What?
so much.
No problem. This is the second time your audience at least gets to see me because I remember our wedding made
Oh,
your
heck yeah.
Instagram. And I
Heck
remember looking
yeah.
like, why the hell would I be looking at this too? I'd be confused. Who the hell are these people?
No, no, no. Your wedding was so lit. You probably had the best, most funnest, beautiful, lovingest wedding I think I've ever attended.
We keep hearing that. Like I didn't we didn't get a chance to really experience it. Like I didn't even get
No,
the
no, you
food.
you can't listen. I didn't eat at my wedding either. I was starving like Marvin for a Cool J
Huh?
song at the end of my wedding, and it was so funny. I was so tired. I got married when Soldier Boy was like at the peak with
Was
the
he was still cranking it?
Crank That Soldier Boy. That's when I got married. That's what we were doing at my wedding. See, you had your wedding was on another level. Y'all was out doing Kendrick Lamar. You know what I'm saying?
She didn't
No,
crank it
I
so
was in my wedding dress like you in my wedding dress. Yeah, that's what we were doing.
You're special. Well, at least they wasn't. I found out later there was a cloud of smoke going on in the parking lot at our wedding. I was like, y'all can't ever restrain yourselves. Jesus, my mama
No, no,
did.
no. That's on brand. That is
Damn
on
right.
brand.
Yeah,
Leave it
my
alone. It's on brand. Cash color wedding.
Cash Color Wedding. Show was Cash Color Wedding. The reception I
Cash
heard was late.
color wedding. Yes, you had an absolutely beautiful wedding. Beautiful couple. You just celebrated an anniversary on December 3rd.
Correct. Yeah, man. We
See,
going in.
I be on it, don't I? I
Yeah.
just, you know
Three-time
why?
world champions.
But you know why I know? Because I still have not taken down the save the date off of my refrigerator. It's still
Y'all
there.
really like that wedding that much? Like people tell us all the time that was the best wedding. And I'm like, yeah, it was cool. I
I
liked it.
mean, you said it was cool. I like it. I just want to tell you this, and then I'm going to let you go. The reason why you said, yeah, it was cool, I like it, is because you are in it. Like when you are in it,
True,
it's
true.
only, and I mean, it could be magical to you and all that, but you are constantly, oh, you got to say hi to this person, and this person wants to take pictures with you, and you got to hug this person, and come here, no, 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 you can't eat, you got to come do the first dance, and no, 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 you got to come dance with your mama, and and all that. So you really can't just settle into the moment. You really just can't. I don't know, because I literally was like, who was there? I was looking at pictures like, oh, okay. I mean, I was on autopilot.
Yeah.
My face was hurting from smiling so much. Even on when I do the podcast, just a secret to everyone, for those who are interested in podcasting, my face always hurts when I finish. Because when my guest is talking, so let's wait. I want to get a real quick. Your podcast, if you could
Yeah.
give one podcast tip, because as people can see from this interview, you are extremely poised. You wanted that swag. You got the swag, okay? So you are extremely poised, and when you have your conversations with people, you make people very comfortable. And that's one of the things I always strive to do in my conversations. And I mean, they have to be called interviews, I guess, for jargon, but I like to have conversations, right?
Me too.
What one podcasting tip would you give? Because I can't let you slide up out of here when you have one of the illest podcasts and you are one of the top tier podcasters in the game. I'm not going to let you slide out of here without a podcast tip. Let's go.
Podcast tip, I would say that before every interview, I try to get myself settled. You know, like I have an anxious spirit. I'm somebody who actually doesn't. I'm serious. I'm somebody who actually doesn't like being around crowds. I'm very much an introvert, so I have to get to myself. I have a quiet space I like to get to every time before I do
Okay.
the show. It's kind of say, you got this. Like imagine you
Yeah.
doing an interview and you were over the phone, or you were doing an interview with somebody else. Like it's the same type of way, like you say about making somebody comfortable. You as the interviewer are in control, and you have to always
Yeah.
remember that you have to read this person's energy. You have to catch this person's vibe to make sure that this goes smoothly.
Hmm.
So you have to make sure that you first center yourself. And once you
Yes.
do that, you get yourself calm and get yourself in your rhythm. You'll be able to control the conversation a lot better.
Absolutely. And so you just pulled my card because right before we got started, I was like, Mecca, I can't find my earrings. I was like, Mecca, I can't find my earrings. And you can't even hardly even see the stupid behind earrings. But I was having a like, where's my earrings? Where's my earrings? Oh, hold on. Let me get this. Let me grab that. And it's so funny because you are so right. Because I was in the haste of looking for earrings that you can't even see. We launched this podcast, you and I, this interview in the wrong space.
Oh, see.
So peep this. So see, that is why it is important to get your quiet space. So when I say we launched in the wrong space, that we actually went live in the interview that was scheduled to go later. Right. So while we're
Oh,
doing it, so this is full transparency because I'm living in full transparency in 2021. So listen to
gotta
this.
be honest with people.
Listen how smooth your girl is because this goes back to authenticity. You spoke about authenticity. We started the podcast and I'm like, yes, everything is rolling. Mecca look good. I look good. You know, he's clear. His lighting is great. He's dropping these gems. You know, you're just easy to talk to anyway. You're a great person. And then I looked and I said, why does that say Terrell? So literally during the podcast, I am literally swapping out photos. I'm swapping out descriptions across different social media platforms, like from YouTube to
You
Instagram.
held that together well.
I am swapping all of that out and still holding down a podcast. Y'all can't tell me I'm not the little goat. I might
Let
not
me
be the
tell you
big
something.
goat,
You
but I'm
get in there. You get in there. That's monumental goat level behavior right there. That's crisis control on
listen.
top of managing a podcast.
Listen, I actually got more perturbed when I couldn't hear you because I'm like, wait a minute, I can't hear him. But those are the type of things that happen. And, you know, as going along, because I've been podcasting for 10 years off and on, right? And so that's going to be my gem to people. My gem to you is be prepared for whatever. Like the way your sound when you got muted, you was like, okay, boom, unmute, and you just kept on going. Don't be, oh man, I'm so sorry. I had got me. No. You stay on task. You stay on your dean. Like don't fall
Don't
off your
fold in
square.
pressure, man.
Don't fold under pressure. Don't get knocked off your square.
Yeah.
And so you and I were both beautiful examples of that today. And I just want to point that out to our listeners who will be listening through our DSPs and for those who will be watching online. So I am so proud of myself. And, you know,
That
I'm
was
always
fun.
proud
We
of
did a
you.
great job today.
We did do a great job today. Maybe we need to do this more often.
I'd love that. Matter of fact, I'd love to have you actually come down to Cash Color Campus to do an episode.
Yes. And have me an edible there because I'm really, really fun on edibles.
Would you mind if we play some Xavier music?
Oh my! Now you push.
You know what?
Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap this thing on up. Now you playing. So let's be like, okay, let's go ahead and
Can we
wrap
play
this
some
thing.
of them hit records, man?
I don't know. On an edible, yes. Without an edible, no.
Well, you
I,
definitely got an invite to
yes.
come down any
Oh
Tuesday night
yes,
at 9 p.m. to
awesome.
come interview with us.
Awesome. But thank you again just for coming in and talking to us today. And I'm pretty sure that our listeners will be able to learn from your experience, learn from your journey, to be inspired by where you plan to go and your aspirations to even grow the brand bigger and even touch even more people and influence even more people. You got me influenced because, you know, before Catch Color Cannabis, I was scared to eat edibles. But I'm there. I'm here. And maybe I need to stop saying that so much. So thank you again for just being a guest on the show. I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I will continue to support you in any way I can.
Thank you so much, Xavier. And again, check me out on
Yes.
cashcolorcampus.com. You can find all of our platforms. You can find all of our streaming platforms as well as shopping. You can shop at leabisclothing.com at Cash Color Cannabis. You just see an ad.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mecca. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Xavier.
All right. Bye-bye.